All right, it's Illinois week. It's homecoming week. It's Nebraska against Illinois. The Fighting Illini stumble into town. They are 1-2 after winning their opener against Murray State. They have lost back-to-back games. They're coming off a bye week. And Lovie Smith now the new head coach.
Lovie.
What can we expect from the former Bears head coach and Buccaneers?
Well, he kind of walked into a tough situation, number one. He was hired about 2 weeks before the start of spring practice. And it was a very interesting move by Illinois, kind of an all-in poker move to get Lovie Smith and make that staff move. But, it's a guy, I think, that's still finding his way. I think everybody knows that this is going to be a rebuilding year. A lot of people think that this might be the worst team in the Big Ten just because of the circumstances. Now, they have a good quarterback coming back to work with, but other than that, they lost a lot of key guys from that team. Lovie Smith, I just know how these transitions are. Year one, especially with an NFL guy coming into college, we saw it with Bill Callahan, and we've seen it a lot. It's just not easy that first season.
Yeah, the Illini lost to North Carolina after beating Murray State in the opener, and they dropped one against Western Michigan 34-10. They do have a senior quarterback in Wes Lund who can sling, and obviously Husker fans know all about him since he led that late comeback last year.
Yeah, Wes Lund has been their starter now the last few seasons, and Oklahoma State transfer. He was a 4-star recruit. I think the number that does jump out to me, even at the 1-2 record, he's only thrown just one interception. So he has been efficient with his throws. He hasn't given a lot of balls away. It's a pro-style system. In some ways, I think it matches up well at Nebraska because they see pro-style and practice every day with what they do, and I think that will be a good matchup.
Let's go to the other side. Nebraska coming in offensively, they shoot for balance. They're about as balanced as you can get, right?
Yeah, the Huskers are 243 rushing, 242 passing a game, and when you talk about balance, that's about as balanced as it gets. Now, some of that could be, they've played some easier opponents. I think we'll really know the true balance in Big Ten play, what this offense can do against, conference defenses in the Big Ten. But you really have to like what we've seen. I love the play calling in Evanston. Danny Langsdorff really brought in a lot of new wrinkles we haven't seen. And Tommy Armstrong is playing the best football right now in his career.
Yeah, he is playing at a fantastic high level. Let's talk about the offensive line for the Huskers. They are going to do some shuffling. And if there's a strength on Illinois' defense, it's that defensive line, according to Mike Riley.
Yeah, Illinois' defensive line really gave Nebraska some problems last year. The Huskers weren't able to run the ball very effectively. If you remember in that game, they actually went to Andy Janovich a lot as the featured I-back in Divino Zigbo. It was one of those just weird, wet, ugly Champagne days.
Great.
It was windy. Yep. It just didn't have, it was one of those days, and then the way the game ended. It was probably one of the worst endings you could ever draw up. All Nebraska had to do was fall down, and Illinois was going to get the ball back with about 15 seconds. Well, by throwing an incomplete pass, they had over a minute to run a play and run some play and beat the Huskers there at the very end. So when I think about last year, Andy, of all the losses, that one almost probably upset me the most, knowing just how football 101, the clock management was there at the end of the game.
Yeah, a forgettable afternoon, afternoon of disbelief, especially down the stretch. What's going to be the key for Nebraska coming in, especially because there is going to be some shuffling on that offensive line?
Yeah, the offensive line is going to be interesting without Tanner Farmer. He's got an ankle injury, and they want to rest him this week and then give him the bye week, and then I'll have another week to get ready for Indiana. So essentially, he'll go 3 weeks without playing in a game when you go Northwestern to Indiana. And if they can get through with that plan, the O-line is going to be in great shape. But Corey Whitaker, a guy that's been injury prone, is going to be looked at as the starter. He played well against Northwestern. Mike Riley said that both Whitaker and Nick Gates were the two best linemen in that game. So that was promising, but they're going to really have to ride Whitaker. This is a game, though, you would think Nebraska should be able to put up points. They should be able to put up yards. They are at home, and it's just one of those matchups you expect Nebraska to take care of business.
Yeah, finally, is revenge a factor? We saw it last week with Northwestern. Nate Gary mentioned it after the game that there was a little bit of a chip after dropping it, and this is kind of a start of a tour, like a revenge tour, because they'll get Purdue in a few weeks as well.
And Oregon was even a part of that revenge tour for Mike Riley from his own personal background, because that kind of ended his career at Oregon State. But I think with a different coach, it doesn't take on the same feel. I almost felt like when Illinois beat Nebraska, that almost extended Bill Cubitt's time, where a lot of people didn't expect him to even and be kept. And then they kept him around, and then Lovie Smith became available in March, and they, okay, you're done now at this point. So, yeah, there is that extent, but honestly, I don't think there even needs to be. I mean, Nebraska is a much better team right now. They're in year 2. They've shown it now 4 weeks. Sure, there's revenge, but Nebraska should win this game regardless.
Yeah, Nebraska comes in ranked 15th in the country. They're 4-0 on the season. Illinois comes in 1-2. It's a 2:30 kickoff. It's on ESPN2.